Welcome to the Conversation Unscripted. This is an archived radio broadcast that aired through New72 Media on Blog Talk Radio. I am Ruth Evelyn, and this audio is part of a series of unscripted conversation where I was asked a variety of spontaneous questions by editor Mary Holden. The Conversation Unscripted was aired bi-weekly over the course of 8 months. Not all episodes remain available to share with you today. We are sharing this episode with you now because the channeled information that came through while in conversation is timeless and especially relevant today. There are many life gems, surprising practicalities, and controversial, thought-provoking clarifications from beginning to end of the Conversation Unscripted episodes. We hope you enjoy this conversation for yourself, and please share with others that we may re-engage relevant well-being throughout our world.
Hi, welcome to the Conversation Unscripted. This is Ruth Evelyn, and Mary Holden is going to be joining us shortly. We have launched this radio show as a continuation of conversations that she and I have been having over the last year and a half. When New72 invited me to have a radio show, Mary is the person that I thought of to join me. I used to do a radio show on Blog Talk many years ago in 2008. Having Mary with me, we look forward to a lot of fun, a lot of conversation, and just want to go into just a little bit about what the Conversation Unscripted is. Mary and I have been talking over the last year and a half, and when we get on these calls, she may have a topic, I may have a topic. We really have not spoken to one another about these topics, so we have no idea where it's going to go. Again, Mary is on the line. Mary is a freelance editor and writer. She's living in Phoenix, Arizona. We met in high school, actually, and asking questions and listening to answers is she's just really great at it. Mary Holden, welcome.
Thank you, Ruth. I'd like to introduce the world to Ruth, my friend, for many, many years. She's a high-channel intuitive, and she's consulted and mentored in the business and private sectors in the areas of sustainability, disease cure, personal healing, family relations, and a lot more. She was mentored by the high realms of the ascension, and she works with the human holograph to integrate light into the human DNA pattern. The results of her work have provided in-depth knowledge in the language of light, eliminating human emotional pain that no longer pertains to one's journey, and the integration of the true nature of light in the human code. You can visit her site at www.ruthevelyn.com. To kick off this show today, I have a personal interest in light in the human form, as well as emotional healing, which is something that I've been really wondering about since 2010. In fact, I think since 2009, 2010, a lot of people have been asking different questions about themselves and about their role in this human journey. And so much of that journey is talking about what we cannot see. Isn't that right, Ruth?
It really is. And I grew up in a very conservative environment, Mary, as you know, the area of Phoenix and the environment we're in there. I now live at Lake Tahoe. The journey to get here has been an unconditioning of the conditioning, I guess is the best way to explain it. Started out, I moved to Maine, and while I was in Maine, I had a visionary dream where an angel came to me and took me up into what I perceived heaven to be at that time and asked if I wanted to help up there or down, or up here, she said, and down there. And I looked at my bed and thought of my 3 children and something else, and I said, no, there's still too much work to be done. And then a journey began right away that took me back to the West Coast, and really just a complete shift in comprehension of what life is about. You know, people talk about the illusion and reality, and where I have been compelled, what I have been compelled through the eye of the needle so many times, into this world of the human holograph and the light of our bodies. When you think of the earth or look at some of the images of the earth, they depict the electromagnetic field that exists around the earth. And that is actually the same thing that happens with the human body, is that we all have an electromagnetic field that runs around us and in through us, up through the center of our bodies. It creates the words barrier of protection come to mind. But in order to utilize that quote-unquote protection, you got to tap into it and comprehend it and listen, and that's listening to your intuition, listening to that light that's within you. And the way it creates protection around the body is through that knowing, through that intuition, and believing in the communication that you get within that light, and then having confidence in what you believe and trusting your own confidence. So it just creates a completely different experience, a completely different view of reality. It's a different way to interact within your body, interact within the world. And when the more you interplay within your light, the more it integrates into your physical DNA and starts eliminating old patterns and really changing your life into well-being in a way that's functionally easy.
So light, let's talk about that for a minute. Light is something you can feel with your skin because it has a heat. You can see it and incorporate it into the way your eye and brain perceive what is seen. But I think DNA also is composed of light. Isn't there a light sheath that goes around our DNA, the very elemental items of composition in our cells? Can you talk about the light in our DNA?
Back in 1985, Dr. Peter Garyaev, he's a Russian geneticist, and he discovered phantom DNA. And it is the light that runs in tandem with our DNA. It sits right next to our physical body. In the laboratory, that's how it appears.
He used the word phantom. So let's talk about that. Why would a scientist use the word phantom, which is a word that belongs in sort of a science fiction realm? So light is not truly a phantom, as we would think of a phantom as being a ghost or something that's illusory. He actually saw light surrounding the strands of DNA in a science laboratory. This man is a PhD scientist. Is that correct?
That's correct. And he did more than just see it. He actually did experiments with it where he took the light of a duck and put it into the DNA of a chicken. And what was birthed was, in physical reality, in physical form, was an animal that had was a chicken with duck traits. So he was able to combine those two, pieces of information, the light and the physical, and come up with something that was a hybrid. So he did more than just that, than just look at it and see it and notice it. But and phantom, the word phantom, I can't speak to why he named it that, but that's what it appears. When you go to mycoreconfidence.com under the My Core Confidence link, in there is an image that's titled Light and Body. When I was writing my book, An Unseen Life, I had asked my brother Mike to design a cover for me, and this was the image that he gave me. I told him I wanted the DNA with a phantom light that ran in tandem with it. And so in this image, you see the DNA, you see the physicality, and it runs in tandem with it. Well, let's extrapolate that out into the body, the physical body, and that light is in every single molecule in your body. And think about a woman who is pregnant, or in love, where that light, in a woman who's expecting, she has additional light in her body, the light of the fetus. A person in love, they have this glow because this light is about high frequency. So when you are happy, when you're joyful, you glow from inside. This light intensifies. At the same time, we are light. We are not these physical bodies. And the reason I say that is because the physical body, when we die, the physical body ceases to exist, but that light leaves. And when that light leaves, the light continues. The light is actually the electromagnetic field. It is the operating system. It is also the ghost. You mentioned the ghost. It is the ghost that we see when we see ghosts.
You know that I love clarity, and thank you for bringing some clarity to those terms. You've done a good job with that. The other term that you mentioned that I think needs to be brought into clarity is the word love. I think that it means so many things to so many different people, the way it shows up. When a person is in love, we often think of that first, feeling of romantic love, where we've made a connection with the light of another person, and it's made us feel greater than the sum of our parts. But that only happens a couple times in life, if you're lucky. How do we look for the light within ourselves of love that is sustainable light? In other words, the romantic love is all good and wonderful, but how can we find another way to love and have it be of the same quantity of light that one feels when we're in a romantic sort of relationship or experience? How do you keep the light of love sustainable in yourself? That's a pretty heavy question, Ruth. Of all the people in the world I've ever known, you're the only one who could answer something like that. Thank you.
And I hate to bring love down into a scientific view or a practical view, because love is such an amazing feeling. I do disagree with your statement that it only happens a few times in a lifetime.
Well, the romantic love, the connection with another person's light, really can only happen when another person is there, and it just has to be one of those episodes. But love is such an amazing item that it can go to science, and it can go to fantasy, it can go to nature, it can go to the laboratory. Love can go anywhere. And when we talk about romantic love, in human form, that's what most people look at. Of course, you can look at the love of a parent and a child, or you can look at the love of a person for an animal. But when we talk about love, we really need to, all right, so love is asking for some clarity here. Just whatever it takes to get there, science, fact, fiction, whatever, poetry, bring it on, Ruth. Let us know what you think.
Well, love is inspiration. Love is so many things. Love is inspired, and I'm stumbling because I have this grander information that is requesting to come through, I should say. And yes, at the same time, I comprehend the information. So let me just, order step in, and we order the thoughts here for just a moment. When two people meet, and what goes to the question of what compels people together. And let us just talk for just a moment and just get this information through, and then we can answer some questions that you may have. So. Think about that. Go ahead.
We can climb up the ladder of love, and the people that know me know that I love to start a conversation with, let's talk about love. So I'm really glad that the word light brought us to the stairway that we're on right now. And it's my idea that every human being, every living creature that walks on this earth or slimes its way on this earth is here because of some sort of act of love. Something has come together to create, and love is the root of all creativity. So when you see another human being, instead of judging them, your first thought should be, that person that I'm seeing over there is an act of love. It really changes the whole way you see everything.
And I think that is valid. I think that as a human being, it's not practical, and I say that. Okay, let's go back to the original question. Think of the human holograph, and think of yourself inside of your own holograph. Now, this holograph goes all the way around you and up in you, and in reality, it's a whole lot more than that. But we're just going to go with that simplification for the moment. So you are in the center of this holograph, and others are in the center of their holograph. So what compels two people together is the resonance of that light. So what pulls you together is this high form of information, of frequency, of vibration, of coming together. And so you in your human form really haven't a clue what the heck's going on. And so it's very easy in that human mind to misinterpret. You know, we all have experienced, people coming to us who have this either flirtation or this drive or this stalking kind of mentality, and it's unwanted behavior, yet it's present. And so they have misinterpreted, you have misinterpreted, and you have this human misinterpretation going on. However, the light is playing, whether you're aware of it or not. So what you do with it is that free will. Now, here's the thing. Okay, so you have two people coming together, compelled together through this light, and they are in agreement that, we really like each other, not even thinking that the light has brought us together, not even thinking that their holographs are resonant. So they're just these two people that have met at Starbucks and, hey, this is a pretty good deal. Let's go on a date. Let's do whatever, blah, blah, blah. So, okay, then you continue with your relationship. Well, the light is still playing, but your humanness, your physical DNA starts surfacing because you're getting more comfortable with the relationship. So you relax back into your body, back into your life, back into your patterns, back into your issues, and the issues are playing. So it's whatever you are relating to that is how your life proceeds. And what I mean by that is I've taken a concerted effort through this mentoring to eliminate the old patterns, the old issues, so that when I come together with people, I come together in their light, in knowing the light, and I resolve issues through the positive energy of light, rather than going back into the patterning of what I have created, what has been created through DNA, integration, all of that. And so what happens is, in that resolution of light, you can then resolve things through love. You can resolve things through joy. You can resolve, issues. You can come into agreement. You can remember that people that you are with love, are light, are joy. However, they don't necessarily act it. So that brings us back into the human drama. If you are a person who isn't even contemplating that light is real, that light is close by, that light is part of you, then your chances of looking at someone else in the view of light, joy, happiness is going to either be non-existent or short-lived, and you're going to be falling back into your patterns, because that's the human comfort zone. That's our physical bodies are our human comfort zone. It's not truly who we are, but it is how we have learned to live. Does that make sense?
It does. Yesterday we were talking in another conversation about what it must feel like after one passes from this earth. And I'd asked you, those in the other realm seem to do so much for us. What can we as humans do for them? And it seems to me that the answer comes a little close to what you just said, learning to live in the light, as well as learning to live in the practical reality, the human physical form, doing the laundry and paying the bills and sweeping the patio, and how we can make that almost as important and joyful as it is when we're in a state of meditation, when our minds are calm, when we are feeling love or in either receiving love or giving love. Can you talk a little bit about that, how to live in that, with the recognition of that duality? On one hand, I'm a human running my human patterns, and on the other hand, I am a being that can enjoy peaceful meditation or even just a walking meditation or sitting outside and being in a completely almost different form. How do you rectify those two? When people talk about balance, I think that's the balance that they mean.
Well, a lot of people can't meditate, and they feel bad about themselves because they can't meditate. Or someone looks upon them as lowly because they can't meditate. I completely disagree with that, in that, well, okay, I'm going to say something that I'm not sure I agree with, but it's coming through, is that everybody can meditate. Now that's said, I feel that those who are restless in their meditation, okay, now I understand it, aren't actually focusing on the lower body, the enteric brain, which is where your meditative state comes from. And those who can't, those who are finding it difficult, let me put it this way, I scratch the word can't, those who are finding it difficult to meditate, contemplation is very, very effective, very effective. And doing things, the routine things such as laundry, paying bills, these things are spaces of time, spaces, we know you're going to bring up the word time, so just hang on. Spaces of okay, we're going to use the word time. Spaces of time where you can let go of normal thought and just use those rote activities as time to contemplate different things. Contemplate from your enteric brain. Don't contemplate from the high brain. The high brain is connected into the social world. That's connected into other people's opinions. It's connected into things that don't matter. And what I mean by things that don't matter is that we have so many interactions between each other, between people, that never come to fruition. So when you focus on what matters, that means what is coming into physical matter. And you can create something that isn't meant to be by focusing on the problem of it. But if you focus on the solution of it and come down into your enteric brain, which is where your intuitive center is, and allow that light to, that's because that's where the light first enters into the physical body in that flow of information, and then get in touch with your knowing. And that is something that you can do with practice. You can do it on the fly, anywhere, anytime. What meditation does is it allows you to practice letting that light in and receiving it and learning to believe in it. And it's a process because as human beings, if we were to suddenly be inundated with our true nature, it would trigger a lot of emotional trauma, and it would be pretty disastrous because what the reality, the physical reality life is like, and what the light reality life is like are two completely different worlds until you go through the process of integration. And as you go through the process of integrating that light into the DNA, where you don't have that separation between what Dr. Gariev saw in the lab, where you have that, allow that light to integrate, then you create you raise the vibration of your body, you raise the vibration of your life, toxicity goes away, well-being becomes standard. I don't know if I answered your question, but...
Well, yes. Can you talk a little bit about that human firewall that we seem to have prior to this light integration where we go into a state of living in a higher vibration?
Well, yeah, resistance. It's the difference between belief and believe. Belief is an illusion. Believe is the reality. Or, excuse me, is what is true. And how do I go from there? Well, in our human experience, we're taught by the people who love us, by the people we believe in. We believe in our teachers. We believe in our parents. We believe in our siblings and in those people close to us first. And we believe what we see. We believe their behavior. But it's more than that. What is in our consciousness is that physical DNA patterning. So we have beliefs that we inherited that really no longer pertain to this life. But letting go of all of that, because we spend all these years in this comfort zone, I mean, we're really wrapped in a blanket of human thought processes, and we're immersed in it. And then to know to come to find out that everything that we've been taught, most of everything that we've been taught is not true, that's a lot. I mean, you asked me, I had stated at one point that I resisted the spiritual journey every step of the way, and you asked me why. And it's because it flies in the face of everything that I've been taught. And so when you have that, it's our natural skepticism so that we can discern what's true for us, what isn't true. I mean, there are some people in this life, in this experience, that are not meant to be enlightened. They're not meant to know what the light is all about. They're meant to be in the darkness. And that's okay. And for the rest of us, can we be okay with that? There's just a lot of questions that go along with all of this. We see other people as we're going through these journeys, and we're going into this quote-unquote goodness, this high positive vibration, yet we see everybody around us who's not. There's a bit of unfairness that gets felt. And there's a bit of, we've all had people who have pulled on us saying, you should do this and you shouldn't do that. Well, there is no should, there is no shouldn't. It simply is. It's a process. Everybody goes through their process. And it's whatever it is that you planned on for this lifetime. It's whoever you agreed with on this in this path. And where do you go from there and trying to explain it all?
Explaining it is a lifelong journey. And I think that those of us that want to explain it, but we're living lives where we seek answers, and we love asking questions about what it is that makes things happen and what creates reality. There are certain things that you have to believe before you can advance in this thought. So your point about the fact that there are people on this earth that live among us who aren't meant to seek the light as we are, it's a good thing that they're here. They give us contrast. They give us something to go up against. But this little comment is leading to something else I want to ask you about. the mystery, the glory, the beauty of synchronicity, those moments where magic seems to happen, where the pieces of the puzzle seem to fit together perfectly, and it surprises the human beings, the two human beings who are involved. Even if the puzzle piece on one hand is the person who is a seeker of light, and the other puzzle piece is held by a person who is enjoying their utter darkness. Sometimes we are all given an opportunity to have a synchronicity. Those are so beautiful. Can you talk a little bit about synchronicity, please?
Well, it's a choice. Okay, no. What we're going to talk about for the moment is what we're going to talk about for the moment is the contrast, and it's a choice. It gives us, let me put it this way, it gives us an opportunity for choice. Are we going to honor ourselves and walk away from demeaning, harm, disregard, or are we going to continue to allow ourselves to be demeaned, disregarded, harmed? And that's pretty much what this is all about, is what choice, who are you, how do you value yourself? What do you value in life? And if you don't value yourself, okay. You asked me yesterday about, who are these people and how can we help them? And the response was, help yourself. And what we mean by that is no one can help you if you continue to choose to hurt yourself. And that doesn't mean cutting, anorexia, any of that kind of stuff. It means who you choose to be around, what you choose to do in a day. What do you choose to continue to be in a job that demeans you, even though that supports you physically? You're saying to the universe, you're saying it's okay that I'm put down. You're saying that it's okay for me to be hurt. I mean, how many times have you heard women defending men who put them down? And I'm sorry to put that into a gender thing because it goes the other way too. How many times have we seen people defend the other person? Well, they're just not that bad, and it's you go for it because you seem to be enjoying it. No matter how much you're complaining, you seem to be enjoying it because you're staying in it. So that's contrast. I mean, it's not that we have to put up with it, but it's not that we aren't necessarily here to change it. We are here to choose it, whether we want it or not. And for too many eons, we have millennia, we have chosen to keep it around. Well, I feel that we are now in a phase of humanity where we have chosen enough is enough. And so it's a phasing out of I think we'll always have contrast. That's part of the human game. We kind of like to come and play in the sandbox. But those synchronicities, they do come forward to give us those pivotal moments of opportunity to either face it again or get out of the cycle.
Getting out of the cycle.
And there's more to it.
Right, getting out of the cycle, lifting out of the cycle of feeling hurt or like a victim or ill. That's all in the key of light, isn't it? The choice that you make is supported by your attention to the light.
The last couple hours before my mom passed away, I had gone hiking and I had been kept sequestered from her energy. And did not expect to get into this conversation. I didn't expect to get into any of these conversations. This is fine. And I got back into my car and suddenly was presented with, I pulled out my journal and was presented with a conversation that included her. And her last words to me were, let go of the pain, it is your birthright. Let go of the pain, it is our birthright. We don't have to play in these old patterns that no longer pertain to us. I mean, these previous generations, and we have been part of these previous generations, so there's no blame game here. But it's old information, and you look at the new brain that's coming in, the new technology, the new information, and in order to embrace that, we have to let go of our old as a collective. And so there's kind of this sweep going on of clearing out old energy, of moving into a higher vibration, which has been predicted by a lot of intuitives over the last, many years, I guess, prophets, doctrines, Mayan doctrines, all kinds of information has foretold all of this process. And we can see in reality the expansion of science into the non-physical, the expansion of religion into inclusion, and the old paradigms the economic old paradigms are shifting. I mean, right now in marketing, no one has a clue what the heck they're doing. Everybody is scrambling. This is a new reality on so many levels. And so this old pain, this old paradigm that we have created isn't necessary. Now, how much of it stays to where we still have our game of humanity, our interaction, our interplay, our ability to grow, our ability to expand, I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. I don't think anything knows. But in order to move into a new situation, in order to move into a new relationship, you have to let go of the old one. And that's a difficult thing to do. It's a challenge. I mean, because it goes back into that nice warm blanket. It's like we have these cozy comfort things. We have things that we get into new relationships, and once we get into that relaxed state, we go back and we relax back into that easy comfort chair. It's a lot of work to change. It's a lot of uncomfort to look at ourselves and go, oh, I'm the problem. Nobody wants to be the problem.
I'm the problem, but I'm also the solution.
Correct. Which I am going to, we're over an hour here, so we're going to wrap this up, and maybe we can pick this up in the next conversation. We will be back in 2 weeks, same time, 10 o'clock Thursday morning. I'm not sure what the exact date is, but we'll have it posted. In conversation, in your life, every conversation that you have either in your head or with someone else is a conversation that you're having with yourself. So if you're uncomfortable, if you're angry, if you're in love, why am I sending myself this message? Why have I just said that to myself? What message what am I trying to say to myself? And that's the conversation. I mean, we're speaking to ourselves when in those holograms. When we attract people to us, we're attracting ourselves to us. So what is it that we're attracting? That can go in a million different directions. I think that when we look in the mirror, from my own experience, when I looked in the mirror and started listening to myself in a conversation where someone has said something to me, and instead of feeling attacked, sitting there looking at them and in my own head saying, I wonder why I said that to myself, and then contemplating about it later, I think it changes the growth pattern. It changes the resistance. But for me, when I first started looking inside, I was afraid of what I would find. And there was a lot of resistance. I've been afraid to know more than at times I've been afraid to know. At other times I'm like, okay, bring it on. I want to know. And I'd be so curious I'd go too fast for my life, and that sets up another problem. But
what you're describing is the amazing flow and the process of life, which just continues to go on and on and on. There is no end anywhere. The best you can hope to get is to land in a cul-de-sac for a while, where you can sort of ride your bike around and around in a circle and enjoy whatever is going on in the moment. Or you could also be riding your bike around and around in that circle, not enjoying it. And it's about what comes along next, to flip the switch, to change direction, to get that bicycle back on whatever road that's leading to whatever is next. It's really beautiful when you think about it.
It is. It's, and I think a bicycle is a really good analogy. It's a good pace, allows you to go fast or slow. It allows you to take a minute and enjoy the scenery, or be very focused on the road. And it's not too fast. It's not too slow. So I think that's a really good choice of a vehicle to consider.
Then you can get off of it, go for a walk if you need to even switch things up even more. I love the idea of constant motion. People talk about the only thing that you have right now is this moment. And the human mind looks at the clock and says, okay, well, there was a second that went by, there was a second that went by. What do they mean by in this moment? And it stretches okay, so you did say that we were going to talk about time. I love the Pandora. We should call the show the Pandora's Box, because we don't know what's going to come out of it. All of these topics that we've talked about, love and light and resistance, are things that we'll be revisiting in different ways on different shows later down the road. And hopefully we will attract callers our way who will also want to join in this conversation and bring their own light and wisdom, and, as you said it, want to have a conversation with themselves in this venue. But what is the moment, Ruth? Just let's maybe go out. Well, we talk about the show coming to an end in this moment. Give us a little bit of your wisdom about the moment. What is the present moment?
Well, and as far as the time on the show, I read it wrong, so we have time.
It's about 15 minutes, but still, that's okay.
We have time to talk about time. Moments are phases of information, phases of growth, phases of pause, phases of action. They are, and they can last a week, they can last a few minutes, they can last several months. And I think that there's, and there are layers of moments where a moment can be a few years. If you're in a development moment, and within that development there are phases. There are finishings, completions. There's development. There's just so many different measurements of time that in my journey have not been a consistent period, like a minute, or like we measure time in a minute or a week or whatever. Time is both an illusion and it exists. It exists, and the way it exists is that it's a measurement of a phase. That's the measurement that in the spiritual journey that has been described to me as time is we measure things in phases. However, in the human realm, the measurement of time, of minutes, of hours has value to it. And that value is to, for one thing, getting paid, at a regular job. You want to keep your hours, you want to keep your time so that you have that exchange of value. So discounting time is not a valuable process. Diminishing time is not helpful. Comprehending the vast layers and the expansions that extrapolate out from a minute or a moment are huge. They have great value. So time in my world, first of all, I haven't used a watch in 25 years. And I use the clock on my phone, and it's nebulous in a specific, in its specificity. The way my journey works is we walk through phases. So a new phase does not begin until I finish certain tasks. However, there are synchronicities set where other people are involved, other communities are involved, other projects are involved, and I'm talking not just things that I know about, the collective, within the collective, that in order for that to begin, I must finish, or I must finish, and that is beginning, and if I don't finish, my stuff gets cut off. That has happened a few times, several times, and so time is relative.
I like that you use the term phase, because I think that makes understanding what it means to be in this moment stretches it out a little bit more. It makes it easier for me to understand the phase that I happen to be in, and to watch for stepping out of that phase or watching it ease up. It's like waves on the shore at the beach. I like that. Thank you.
Well, I think that, and for me, if I don't get things done, because my to-do list is not always a conscious to-do list, if that makes any sense. And so if I don't pay attention to what is conscious and these other unconscious things are coming in, my body gets physically full and unfulfilled, and I feel a swelling in my body. So I have to keep the momentum going in order for well-being to continue to fulfill in its mastery.
So you talked about the way your body senses time. You have your physical to-do list, the ironing, the taking out the garbage, and you have your sort of psychic to-do list. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I work with order, the natural order, and now is natural order within. It's what is now, what is present. In a to-do list, I may have, in my human thought, I may have 10 things to do, but in natural order, the first thing on my list may actually be number 7. And so when I work within order, then the universe comes forward and supports whatever is present. That means that if I work with orders, natural with now, then I am working within the synchronistic system. Yesterday was a great example. In meditation, I'm kind of going through my to-do list, and I am informed that I'm talking to Mary to you at 5 o'clock. And I was okay, because I wanted to talk to you earlier about 10 o'clock, and it was like, okay, well, I'll just get through my day, and got through my day. I did have a lot of very interesting interruptions that didn't feel like interruptions, but it put off some of the things that I wanted to do that I thought were going to get done. And suddenly I looked at the clock, and it's 5:02, and I just went, it's 5 already, and the phone rang, and you called. That's how now works.
Speaking of timing and speaking of now, Kelly, do you have a person that you'd like to bring in with a question, perhaps?
We do have some listeners online, but at this point I haven't no one has raised their hand with a question, so I'm still watching that. But if anybody does have a question, they just need to push the number 1 on their phone, and I will be able to bring them live at that time, and I'll interrupt you ladies when that time is.
Perfect. Ruth, that was amazing yesterday. The synchronicity of the 5 o'clock phone call. That was a lot of fun.
Well, and that's how it happens. There have been so many times when I have finished a task and literally the next second the phone rings, the doorbell rings, that next thing, it happens. And when you can lean back, this is very helpful. Leaning back into your spine to consider things is the magical resource of your intuitive sense that goes from the perineum up through the brain, up through the spine, through the occipital lobe, and into the thinking brain to bring things into your awareness. Leaning back into the spine, it bypasses all of those frontal interactions of what we see in front of us. We see our home in front of us, something that needs to be cleaned. We see the person in front of us, something that needs to be said, their agenda. And when we lean back into our spine, then we can hear our own voice. And that changes how you perceive and interact in the world. It also puts your physical body into a receptive mode rather than an aggressive attack mode. So you get less disruption, less disagreement in your life. It's easier. I don't even know how else to say it. It's interesting, and because these lives that we live in so many different layers. And if we live from the high brain, when we focus on things from the high brain, the brain in our heads, under our skull, then we're connected in with the social network and we're connected in with the social agenda. And if we aren't, that isn't necessarily a comfort zone for our true nature, because you talk about contrast. That's a lot in contrast, and your locus of control is in your shoulders. So it's too easy to physically, emotionally, spiritually get off balance. When you live from the heart, then that high brain will override the heart at a moment's notice. So the heart isn't really anchored when you're tied in with your social brain. And your locus of control is in your waist and your hips. And again, it's not as easy to get off balance when you live from the heart, but it's also not as easy to live from the heart. When you live from the enteric brain, your locus of control is in your feet, your legs, your thighs. And getting off balance is not so easy. That's where your seat of intuition is, when you can lean back into your spine and let that information come up through the back of your brain. It comes in without interference and with less interference.
I want to thank you for describing this anatomy, and I'd like to do a whole show on anatomy. But speaking of the social brain, there's somebody on the line who'd like to ask a question. Let me bring them in. One moment.
Okay, great, thanks.
Hello, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi.
Welcome
Hi.
to the Ruth and Mary Show. Would you like to ask a question of Ruth?
Yes, I would, Ruth. I think it's very interesting discussing about being in the now and listening up your spine into your brain to know what's right, because as I was waiting to ask the question, I pressed 1. Nobody saw me. I pressed 1 again. It went off. I pressed 1 again. I said, okay, I'm just going to be in the now. And wait for them to find me. My name is Sharon.
Sharon, that's a beautiful name. Beautiful.
We
have found you. and I must say, I do have to say that we are not always in control here. So there have been many times when the universe, the electromagnetic energy has literally dictated how Mary and I communicate in our electronics. So
Absolutely.
We want to thank you. Thank you, Sharon, for the light of your patience. We appreciate it. Go ahead, Ruth. I'm sorry to interrupt.
You're welcome. And that's why I said it'll be in divine timing when they find me.
I don't know that you've ever been lost, but here we go.
I do have a question, though, Ruth. It's one that I have pondered a lot for myself and found my own answers, but I'd love to hear your perspective. You talk about the juxtaposition of your list and the divine listening of what the universe list is, and being able to flow between the two of them. I have a position of no judgment, just love about everything, and I find that many people judge that when the list they've created and gets interrupted by something else, which actually is a blessing of divine timing of something else, in my opinion, they get frustrated and anxious. And so I wondered if you could speak on the way to allow the flow of that list that you have and allow divine timing to come in without judgment.
Well, I would love to, but I do have a comment from Archangel Michael. Actually, not necessarily a comment, but just a reminder message from him. They get just as frustrated with us interrupting their list as well. So it's a two-way street.
I love that. Thank you, Archangel Michael. You're outstanding.
He enlisted me in 2007 to work on his project, The Biological Recovery of Emotional Genetics. And it's been an interesting journey of comprehending what that is, what that means, and his frustration with me and my skepticism in recognizing that this light is real and this light has benefit, and that there isn't just an agenda to drive us in our humanness totally nuts and crazy and scare us half to death. There is purpose, and there's also comprehension of what it is that we need to do in a day. Not always agreed upon by the light realm, simply because we worry about things that don't matter, and we don't consider the things that do matter. And that's what now is. Now works with just what matters. And so here we are now in this natural order of what's within. And our light, those individual body has, they're connected to the collective information. And they're aware of what matters. And those lights are aware of what matters. So here we are in our humanness, worrying about certain things, and even, I don't know, I'm just repeating what I'm hearing right now, pretending that we love something that we don't. We're not in the right vibration of resonance with matching up those lists. And so coming into the attunement of agreement, and we don't have to know what agreement is. I mean, what the specificity of an agreement is, but just attuning ourselves with that frequency and vibration of agreement, then we can start merging those lists, those to-dos, those tasks, those contracts, agreements, magical things. And the thing that you're going to see when you do that is you're going to see people fall out of your life because they're not in agreement or they are argumentative. The universe doesn't thrive on chaos. Humanity thrives on chaos. And the light is doing its best to bring that ease to, but it's like it's like little kids that want to go play on the playground when we as parents want to surprise them with ice cream and a birthday party. You know, the kid is hell-bent to go in a different direction. And they have no idea that all their true friends are at the birthday party.
That blows chaos theory out of the water. I really hope that there are some scientists listening to this conversation. But that's brilliant. The attraction of the playground and all the choice that's on the playground when there could be just, going to sit and be served by people who really love them at the birthday party is just brilliant.
I love that. And what it calls to me when you speak about that, Ruth, is a peaceful, slower cadence of life. And we're constantly in the race car whizzing by, and we miss all of the beautiful signs, we miss all of the synergy, we miss a lot of things by rushing through. So I'm learning personally to breathe more, to slow down more, to listen more, and oh my goodness, what a reward when you do that.
One of the things that we developed through this journey is something called the key, and it is your base frequencies as light. And within your physical body, this light, these frequencies position themselves to assist you. There are different layers, and in the layer called breath, it is literally the second layer, and it is at the level of the second chakra. When you speak about breath, when you can bring that breath all the way down and feel that layer of breath in the second chakra around your hips, it opens up an expansion in the body that is beyond. I mean, it just really loosens up so much and brings a physical relaxation that opens the arms, that is just, it's a different way of living. So, yeah, there is a cadence. I love that word. That cadence that is a more relaxed pace. And that doesn't mean that you lose the excitement of life. That doesn't mean that you just come into a complacent contentment at all. It's completely different. It's absolutely the opposite, where the joy actually, in anything you do, even if it's just paying the bills and doing the laundry that we spoke about, and or going out and meeting people, or even going to work, the joy level is completely emphasized and heightened.
I agree, 1,000,000 unlimited %.
I like the cadence and the accessibility. My image is still very strong of a birthday party going on one end of the park and the playground still existing on the other end of the park, and the fluidity at which I can walk between the two things, the two worlds. Some of the people that will leave my life because my resonance is wanting to be at the birthday party and their resonance is wanting to be on the playground, I can go, when I want to see the good in them, I can go over to the playground, or they can choose to come to the birthday party. Or maybe we'll have one of those unique and rare moments where we meet at the boundary line between the two places. I love this human existence. I just want to go on record as saying that. I also want to go on record as saying that we need to conclude this radio show. Sharon, it's been delightful that you've shown up. We appreciate it. At some point down the road, perhaps you'd like to be a guest and join a three-way conversation with us about the item that you mentioned, no judgment, and how humans can incorporate less judgment and maybe some discernment in their lives to live a better lifestyle. Does that sound
outstanding? Yes, wonderful. Yes. Thank you so much, Mary, and thank you so much, Ruth, for your wonderful conversation, and always my lovely Archangel Michael. Thank you as well.
Nice to have him here, too.
Thank you.
All right, Sharon, thank you. We're going to put her on mute. And Ruth, any concluding comments here?
one thing that I just want to say about that choice of going between the birthday party and the playground is how many times have we made that decision to go to the playground, to go to some place that we don't belong, and we get there and we know we don't belong, but we stay anyway. Getting into that intuition is so critical to, merging those task lists to being in the now and believing in your own empowerment. It's huge. I would also like to take a moment to thank New72, Kelly at New72. Kelly has joined us on our board. She's running the show behind the scenes right at the moment. I really do appreciate your time and this opportunity. And Mary, I want to thank you so much for playing with me in this playground. I almost thought of calling it Fly on the Wall so that instead of the conversation, because so many people have wanted to participate in hearing, just listening to us. And so it's like, because we've been doing this for now a year and a half now, and so I'm really, really excited that we're now doing it in this venue. And thank you for participating.
Thank you, Ruth, for being available and making your wisdom become known. With this being our first show, I really would like to see it grow and have others join us and call in and listen in, because I believe that there is a hunger right now in humanity and a willingness to talk about all that is seen and all that is unseen. Kelly, are you there? All right. I am going to figure out how to end this episode. Thank you to our listeners.
Ladies, I'm actually here. I'm sorry I had you unmute. I had a contractor come into my home here briefly, so I apologize for that. But I want to say thank you for so many things. I have a long list, so I'll be brief. I want to say thank you for the conversation, because these conversations I have quite often with Mary in the depth that you two have. And I am tingling from head to toe, filled with gratitude to have you both in my life and be part of the collective conversations on New72 Radio. I am eternally grateful, and I look forward to the next program. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you very much. And with that, I am complete. Mary?
I am too. Thank you.
Okay. We will see everybody within 2 weeks. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.